here with Jenny again. She's going to talk more about behavior things, and I'm so excited because this is a topic that honestly I don't have much information on. So she's pretty much going to guide it, and I'm going to ask a bunch of the silly questions about behavior because I'm just like, not my realm. That's why I bring people here to share a little bit more about what's going on in the world of special education and how to be the best teacher you can truly be. So Jenny's going to talk about behavior principles to support teacher well-being. So I know teacher well-being is a topic that Jenny talks about a lot, including her podcast, which talks about how a teacher can be a great teacher outside the classroom too, by taking care of themselves, by doing the things that they absolutely love. And I will leave Jenny's link to her podcast below. But tell me a little bit more about who Jenny is, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So, hi, everybody. I'm Jenny Walmsley. I'm the owner of Braving BSEL. I'm a special education teacher by trade. Most recently, I taught self-contained emotional support, but I also taught co-taught and pull-out settings prior to that. Right now, I'm currently pursuing my master's in applied behavior analysis and my BCBA certification.
Awesome. And so you are definitely in the forefront of all of that behavior, social emotional learning
It's my
realm.
jam.
I love that it's your jam because it's not mine. And so I always go to you for all the things. Between you and Nicole from Adaptation Station, I feel like both of you were always like, hey, this is what I have going on. Help me with this. It was not natural for me, and it was not my educational background. So yeah, I love that.
It wasn't natural for me in the beginning, but as I learned more about behavior, as I became desperate, honestly, when it came to the behaviors in my classroom, I was like, I gotta dive into this. And now I've found my calling. I'm
Yeah,
such
I
a
know.
about it.
I know, and I appreciate that so much because yes, that is your favorite thing in the whole wide world, and
Yep.
life skills is my favorite thing in the whole wide world. So yeah, I feel like it's just really cool to see special education teachers do the things that they love in such a niche area. Yes, special education is so broad, and like all of us have our own little tracks that we are so good at, and so passionate about, and that's what makes us continue to work day in and day out in this field and do better for other educators who are coming behind us too.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I think I love most about behavior is kind of what we're going to be talking about today, and the way that behavior is a useful tool beyond just the classroom. So I'm excited to share kind of that new perspective on it with people too.
Yeah, so I know I already gave away the big surprise and the big secret, but I know you have a podcast that is really supporting teacher mental health and teacher well-being outside the classroom, so that you can be the best teacher inside the classroom. I'm pretty sure that's like the exact phrase you use. I haven't listened to the podcast enough.
There's only one season out. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've listened to all of them, maybe minus one, and it probably was the one I was on. But really tell us a little bit more about this podcast and like how it came to be and what it's all about.
Yeah, so my podcast is called Happy Class. It's spelled like happiness, like with an I, but instead of ness, it's class. You can find me on Instagram at happyclass.pod, or you can just find Happy Class anywhere you listen to podcasts. I think as educators, we can get so easily wrapped up in teaching as our identity, and it leads to so much burnout and just lack of fulfillment in our lives. But we're really going to be the best teachers we can possibly be when we're the best humans we can be. And so that involves putting effort into our lives outside of our classrooms too. So I sit down with teachers and I interview teachers from all different areas of the field of education about their hobbies, their interests, their life outside the classroom, what makes them who they are. So it's really a lot of fun. Season 1 is out in its entirety, and we'll be starting to record season 2 soon.
I'm so excited. I cannot wait to hear it. Of course, I will leave the link for Jenny's podcast below so you can check it out as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about this whole behavior principle thing? Because girl, I will be the first to admit I am not one to know what is a behavior principle and what is an example of it.
Yeah, so really behavior principles are ideas that put language to why we do what we do. So things like talking about antecedents, that's a behavior principle. Consequences is a behavior principle. The
Cool.
functions of behavior, whether you're talking about positive and negative reinforcement, positive and negative punishment, basically concepts within the science of behavior would all, I mean, those terms that I shared are like very, very basic ones. They're the ones that we're probably most familiar with as special educators. But it's all of those smaller piece concepts that make up the entire science of behavior and why we do what we do.
Yeah, I feel like we've talked about this a little bit on Marco Polo, you and I specifically, but yes, like why we do what we do. Okay, I'm on the same page as you. What's the antecedent for why I go and grab Cheetos instead of grabbing celery that I should probably be grabbing, right? All of those things. So tell me a little bit more about this connection of these behavior principles, some of these basic terms that we hear all the time, antecedent behavior, consequence, functions of behavior, right? And how that relates to teachers.
Sorry, there was just a little bit of a lag. Are we back on now?
Yeah, I feel like there's been a lag. I'll do it again. Are you still lagging?
Okay. Yeah. Do you want me to go? Are you going again?
No, I'll go. I just want to make sure you're good.
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good on my end now.
Great, me too.
Okay, cool.
So we can talk a little bit more about these behavior principles because now I'm on board. I've heard antecedents before. I've heard behavior. I've heard consequence, right? ABC, the functions of behavior, like why we do what we do. Is it sensory? Is it attention? I've heard of those things, right? Okay, so in my basic understanding of behavior, I'm here. But how does this relate to teachers now? Because we use these terms with our students a lot. What's that connection?
Yeah, so we are so used to using behavior principles to support students, usually in decreasing challenging behaviors, but our own behavior is actually ruled by the same laws of science as well. So there's an entire world within the field of ABA called self-management, which is the idea of using these behavior principles, these concepts, to manage and change our own behavior as individuals. So as teachers, we can use those same things, those same concepts that we apply to student behavior to ourselves to increase the behaviors that move us towards our personal goals as well.
Got it. Okay. So I'm thinking here now, like I want to start a new routine to wake up earlier in the morning. So in order for me to be successful to do that, I need to set my alarm earlier. I need to get motivated to get up by doing something that might be really positive for me. Maybe I'll make a cup of coffee that I get to have hot before I do my workout. I'll put out workout clothes that really make me feel good, right? I'm changing what I'm doing so that I can continue to start a new pattern. Does that kind of be the same thing?
Yeah, pretty much everything that you just said there, the things that would happen before that you would set up to basically encourage yourself to get out of bed, those are all antecedent strategies.
Yeah, so then I would say that after I work out, then I can really like get a second cup of coffee then or something like that so that I can really reinforce that behavior of like, yeah, I really want a coffee. Maybe after I work out, I'll have another cup of coffee and can continue to reinforce that behavior so that I can continue to do it the next day and the next day, right?
In essence, that's a very simplified version of it, but yeah, that's the basis of it.
Cool. That's exactly what I need. I was like, I need an example. Do you have another example that you could give us?
Absolutely. So, let's say, for example, one thing that you want to do is increase your a habit of going to the gym after work each day. You know that that's something that improves your well-being. You know, it's something that helps you blow off steam. And so what you might do is maybe for you, visuals are a really good antecedent. So we might use visuals with students. You can use visuals with yourself too. So you could have the visual of your gym bag sitting on the passenger seat of your car. If you stick it in the back seat, you might forget about it. Have it in your passenger seat, you're going to see it when you get in your car at the end of the day, trigger that reminder, oh, I want to go to the gym. So that's just a very basic way of using an antecedent strategy to encourage yourself to engage in a behavior that you know promotes your well-being. Another example, let's say you're trying to increase your work-life balance and your productivity during work time. So you might know, okay, I am really reinforced by social interaction, right? It's one of the four functions of behavior is attention. And so really attention is connection. So you could tell yourself, okay, I have to do these progress reports and I want to increase my productivity. If I can do these progress reports by 5 p.m., then I can go to happy hour with my friends afterwards. And so you're using social reinforcement to reinforce your behaviors of being productive and completing your work within a timely fashion so that you can increase that work-life balance for yourself. So that's an example of using like a consequence strategy and considering the functions of your behaviors. Now, with both of those, you can kind of see how these are things that we might naturally do because they're things that, everybody behaves. And so the laws and the science of behavior applies to all of us. But really, this idea of self-management is bringing awareness to these strategies and using them consistently and strategically over time, rather than just like, oh, a one-off kind of thing. But saying, okay, over the long term, I know that this is going to help me change this behavior, not just once by accident, but over a longer period of time on purpose.
Yeah, I love that. And that's totally it too, is like we do want to change habits or behaviors that we do every single day. And we want to make sure it's consistent, especially if it is something that like I am super motivated to do. Like I need to change the environment, what I do beforehand, what I do after, just so that I can really continue that habit or change the habit that I have in place. So yeah, it sounds like you've used these a lot in the past. Can you tell us an example of one that maybe you've done in the past that you're willing to share? And then like which strategy is most helpful for you?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I kind of said this a little bit before too, that the best behavior support is going to be individualized support, right? So, considering your own unique functions of your behavior, the antecedents that work for you. For me, I love data. And so I really, really love when I set a self-management goal for myself. I break out my lovely little bullet journal. I actually happen to have it sitting right next to me. And I like to graph my data on my self-management goals. And girl, let me tell you, it is so reinforcing for me. I love to make it really colorful. I love to make it really exciting. Like just using, I don't know, like my favorite pens is enough to make it automatically reinforcing enough for me to engage in the behavior of tracking it. And then when I engage in the behavior of tracking it, I'm able to see, oh, I am increasing this behavior that I'm working on. Or maybe I'm not, and I want to, focus on it better. So one example that I have in here, I can actually just pull it right up. Let me see if I have a good one. I'm trying to think of like the best one that I have in here. So I had a time where I was working on a variety of different habits. Oh, here we go. Screen time. Now, this might sound a little silly because most people are trying to decrease their screen time. But based on my last year or so, I experienced a head injury and I wasn't able to look at screens for over a year without getting like debilitatingly sick. And so I was actually working on increasing my screen time. Sounds a little silly, but this is one of my self-management graphs that I made for my screen time.
Oh my gosh.
And so I would track each
Love
day
it.
how much time I spent on the screen, whether it was a vision therapy day or a PT day, what my symptoms for my head injury were before and after I engaged in that screen time. And you can see how at the beginning of the month, I was down here around
4,
threes, and then I get
3,
up to fours,
4,
and then
some
I was getting into
5s,
some
and 4.
longer times.
Love it.
So for me, that idea of actually collecting data on my personal goals and then graphing it, like I geek out over it. It is so reinforcing for me.
I love that. I think for me, you kind of lost me at the new pens because like that's where I would stop. Is like I buy the new pens for myself, and that is reinforcing for me.
Well, you know what? That's actually a really good point because for somebody else, it might be a little bit more of, oh, okay, if I if I so much as open my bullet journal once a week for a whole month, then I'm going to go out and buy myself a new set of pens. So like you can
Mhm.
use that knowing that that's like your end goal for
Yeah.
yourself, kind of purposely withholding buying new pens until you've met one of those goals can be a
Mhm.
really simple strategic way to basically help yourself build new habits. I actually, in the front of my bullet journal, I have a thing where I just color in. All I have to do to color it in is just open it for the day. I don't have to do anything else other than just open this little book. And you can see I was much better at it in the beginning of the year, not so much here towards the end of the year. but uh but yeah, so like knowing that about yourself can
Mhm.
be a really simple way to say, oh, that could be a consequence of reinforcement that I can set up for myself to work towards.
Yeah, I love that. And yes, you might have a really long-term goal that you're like, okay, I want to eliminate screens in the evening, right? That's a big goal. It's
Mhm.
lofty. It's hard to do, right? We're attached to our screens, right? I'm doing the opposite now of you.
Yeah.
But like, okay, along the way, I know I get a like a weekly report of like how much screen time I've had daily each like week. And so like, okay, I think mine's right now like 4 hours a day, which is a lot. Obviously breaks and those types of things also impact it. But okay, maybe I want to adjust it to 3 hours a day. All
Mhm.
right, maybe I want to then decrease it to 2 hours a day, decrease it to 1 hour a day, right? And each time that I make that progress, I might give myself just a little bit of a reinforcer.
Yeah.
Maybe there's one day that I can spend a little bit more back.
Mhm.
Or my screen time instead of on my phone is on my Kindle. It looks
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, yes, some of these big lofty things of like, I need to change this behavior. It's going to be so hard. Find those little things along the way to continue to reinforce to get yourself back on track, to keep going towards your goal of whatever it inevitably is.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't mind, I can run with this idea of like trying to decrease screen time and how you could use behavior principles to do that. Thinking about what it is about your screen time that keeps you coming back.
Mhm.
Phones are notoriously addictive, and
Mhm.
that's because they're using behavior science to keep us coming back for more. And
Mhm.
I know for me, a big thing that keeps me coming back to my phone, because now I've gotten past the point where I'm trying to increase my screen time. I'm probably back to where you are, where I could probably do a little less. But what am I getting from my phone? What function is that serving for
Mhm.
me
Mhm.
that I could do something else, a more productive behavior, or a behavior that I feel proud of
Mhm.
almost, instead? So, like a replacement, okay, if I'm getting a lot of social connection through my phone. Maybe instead of opening a social media app, I call my best friend.
Mhm.
So I'm still getting that social connection with somebody without just mindlessly scrolling. Or
Yeah.
maybe my phone serves as a source of escape for me. That if I'm on my phone, I'm not having to think about the laundry I need to fold.
Mhm.
But could you do something else for escape? Maybe instead of folding laundry, I can take some time to, I don't know, I like to crochet.
Mhm.
So I'll pull out my crocheting projects and work on my crochet projects. I'm still getting to escape the laundry,
Mhm.
but I'm not doing it by just scrolling on my phone. So considering what are some alternative behaviors that you could do in place of the phone behavior, if your goal is to decrease it. And I always recommend, in addition to, like, if you're going to track data like I do, not only tracking data on what you're trying to decrease, but also mindfully tracking data on what you want to increase in place of it.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like there's been so much here that I'm taking away and I'm like, yes, I want to do that, or yes, I'm going to try to change this, and use some of these behavior principles that we know about and we use with our students all the times.
Mhm.
But do you have any other resources or anything that you can share with all of us about, behavior principles as it relates to teacher well-being?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can always head to my website. I always like to share some stuff around teacher well-being and how behavior links to that, at bravingbsel.com. I do teacher coaching, and I love sitting down and talking not just teacher goals and classroom goals and professional goals, but also personal goals with teachers,
Mhm.
because, like I said, you have to be your best self outside of the classroom to be your best self inside. So I love coaching teachers on that kind of side of behavior and your own behavior too. But in general, I highly recommend the book The Happiness Trap by Russ Harris. It talks a lot about that idea of, behaviors that move us towards or away from our goals and values. And it basically applies, it takes like ABA ideas, but
Mhm.
puts them into the context of our personal behaviors and self-management and that kind of stuff. And two other books that I highly recommend, we brought up the idea of building habits, right? Is Atomic Habits by James
Mhm.
Clear
Mhm.
or The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. Both of those books are really, really great. They often talk about the habit loop or the habit cycle. I think James Clear uses like a 3-step one that very much mirrors antecedent behavior consequence. It's basically what we know as behavior in the special ed world, just in other terms.
Yeah.
And same thing with The Power of Habit. It's been a little bit longer since I read that one, but I'm pretty sure he uses a 4-step cycle that is kind of like many some teachers might know this term, some might not. But the idea of motivating operations. So
Mhm.
if ABC is like a 3-term contingency, motivating operations would be like the 4th term. So that's getting a little into the weeds of the science and stuff, but The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg definitely mirrors that. So those 3 books, The Happiness Trap, Atomic Habits, and The Power of Habit, are all really good self-help books that have really good, solid behavior principles within them that
Mhm.
will help you learn how to apply the things that you already know as a teacher to improving your own well-being behaviors. And then obviously you can check out my podcast for some ideas for things that you can do and increase outside of the classroom to help yourself live a balanced, well life.
Yeah, thanks, Jenny, for all of that. I will make sure to leave all the links below so you can check those out. Find Jenny to have more conversations with her or have her as a mentor. But yeah, thanks for being here, Jenny.
Thanks for having me.